Hello, this is Fay again. I had so much fun chatting with you the other day that I thought maybe, well, I'll do it again. And today I'd like to read to you from a book that I wrote in 2011. It's a book with the stories behind the paintings that I have painted. I started out painting primitive and folk art, and then I sort of progressed or went on to painting Americana. But today I'd like to share with you some information, some stories from Kindred Spirits Remembrance, stories of people and times in Central Virginia as told in folk art. Also, there's some recipes from the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And the text is by myself, Samantha Harris, my daughter-in-law, and Terry Harris, my youngest daughter. Kindred spirits, that mystical bond between two people that cannot be explained. I was looking for a poem to go with my book, and I wanted something that talked about home. I went on the internet and I found a beautiful poem by Lynn Baraney. She's a Canadian. She had her website page there, and so I got in touch with her and asked her if I could use her beautiful poem in my book, and she gladly said yes. And Lynn and I, we have been good friends ever since. I call her my Canadian friend, and she calls me her American friend. My hometown. Let me return again and again, and let my family be always there to love me, my friends there to welcome me, and a small part of heaven be waiting to bless me. Lynn Baraney. Isn't that lovely? Okay. I'd like to read to you the introduction. Everyone has a mentor, someone who inspires them along life's journey. I was blessed to have found mine at an early age, my Aunt Laura, from whom I am named. She helped with the delivery of my birth, September 25th, 1946. Mama had not picked out a name for her early morning arrival. When Dr. Hayden asked her for a name, her eyes fell on her sister, who had labored along with her during the night, doing everything she could to help bring her new baby into the world. Name her Laura, Laura Fay. My aunt jumped for joy. That week she spent her entire paycheck on her little namesake, a complete layette. Aunt Laura was a woman of many talents. She brought beauty and life to everything she touched. She experienced tragedy and poor health in her lifetime. She came through it all with dignity and grace. Many times through life's challenge, she would tell me, "Now, Laura Fay, hold that chin up. You can do this." My dear aunt passed away at the age of 56. She was a beloved mother, friend, accomplished artist, and as my mother called her, a lover of life. So, of course, my first Kindred Spirits Remembrance book is dedicated to my first kindred spirit, Laura Sowell Selman. Let's see, I think I'll read to you a story about my husband's birthplace, Moneta, Virginia. Moneta home place. My husband Leonard and his siblings were born in Moneta, Virginia, and later moved to Forest, Virginia. The home in Moneta was always referred to as the old home place. My mother-in-law, Gladys Harris, spoke of her memories there and shared photos with me from time to time. As a gift to her, I painted the Moneta home place. It must have rekindled her love for the old home place, because shortly after I completed the painting, Mrs. Harris wanted to return to Moneta and see what remained. What once stood as a home filled with the laughter of small children and the pure joy that only babies bring a mother and father, had fallen to the ground. Although the structure of the house laid on the Moneta soil, those memories were still in her heart. As a loving tribute, my husband gathered some of the wood from the home and made the frame that showcased the painting. In her final years, my mother-in-law suffered from extreme memory loss. I am sure her love of the old home place still felt in her heart. She cherished the painting for the remainder of her life. Mrs. Harris passed the painting on to my daughter, Lori. Moneta Home Place will always be a reminder that true love and joy can transform an ordinary house into a beloved old home place. Okay, here's a recipe I put in here for Granny Harris's buttermilk biscuits. My goodness, she can make the best biscuits. 1 cup of buttermilk, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons baking flour, 5 tablespoons shortening or lard, and I'm sure she used lard. Sift together ingredients all together. Blend with shortening or lard. Add buttermilk to make soft ball. Roll out to 1/2 inch thick and cut with biscuit cutter. Place on baking pan. Bake at 350 degrees in wood stove oven about 10 minutes or until brown. Serve hot with butter, sorghum, or honey. We enjoyed her biscuits many, many times. Okay, let me read to you about the Jones Farm in Clifford, Virginia. On a return visit to Jones Farm, I can still picture George at the lake, throwing bait in to feed the catfish, having supper with Granny Jones, anticipating her famous fried chicken, homegrown veggies from her garden, stuffed eggs laid by her hens. As I leave, she would be putting a jar of homemade butter and bread and butter pickles into my hand, all with love. Jones Farm, Clifford, Virginia. Jones Farm is a quaint little farm on Fletcher's Level Road in Clifford, Virginia. It is the home place of my sister's husband, George E. Jones, Jr. George came down with a serious illness in February 2009. I must say George was more like a brother than a brother-in-law. Wanting to do something nice for George, I decided to paint his beloved home place. July 4th, 2009, I presented George with Jones Farm. Tears came to his eyes, and I knew it touched his heart. It was worth every brush stroke to see how happy it made him. Wanting to know more about the charming home place, Terry and I made a visit to see Swanson Jones, George's eldest brother. Swanson was eager to share information about his family and home place. George E. Jones Sr. and Arlene Cox married in 1924. They raised 3 sons, Swanson, Lewis, and George E. Jones, affectionately called Georgie by his mother. Georgie was 21 years younger than his oldest brother. Jones Farm had been in the Jones family for many generations. When the time came for it to be handed down to George Sr.'s generation, it was divided into 3 equal parts. 3 straws were drawn. George Sr. drew the straw for the land near the road, which included some swamp land, fed by 2 creeks. George Sr. built the little white cottage for his family. He hand-hewed the front porch pillows out of cedar trees from the land. The beautiful lake was another inventive idea of George Sr. He, along with Swanson, built the lake out of the swamp land. Little Georgie was only 5, and his mother was nervous about his safety. However, the Clifford Baptist Church was happy to use it for baptizing. Our Georgie has passed on, and we will always miss him. You can see this beautiful little farm on Fletcher's Level Road if you ride through Clifford. It's still there, still intact, just as beautiful as ever. Okay, I'll read you one more story and then that'll probably all be all you'll want to hear. Mary Patterson's Quilts, Yellow Branch, Campbell County, Virginia. In between Lynchburg and Alta Vista, there is a small community of Yellow Branch. There lived Mary Patterson, a dear family friend and neighbor, who was left to raise her 6 children alone. In those days, government assistance did not exist, but she rose to the challenge of supporting her children. She cooked, cleaned, took in ironing, whatever job she could do to earn money. Mary's talents and determination provided for her family. She also displayed a talent for making and selling beautiful quilts. One quilt I particularly remembered was a crazy quilt made of colorful velvet and satin with black velvet backing and border. That was the most luxurious thing I had ever seen. I loved walking past it and rubbing my hand against its soft and smooth texture. It was always rolled up at the foot of my grandfather's 4-poster bed. Although times were difficult for Mary and her family, she was always smiling and laughing. With warmth in her heart, she always took time to ask how you and your family were doing. Mary was adored by her children, and I'm sure they felt blessed. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you at another time. Bye-bye.